evil Ibur, as we said, can cause a person to lose his way completely, and in one moment he enters a new phase, and he can come back from the street totally relaxed, and in one moment in the house a ruach shtut, an evil spirit, could go inside of him, and he could do all sorts of bad deeds. And people ask him, what happened? And he said, I don't know. I'd say, I don't know. Something controlled me, and it's like as if I didn't do it. And sometimes it's true that he didn't do it. It's just this spirit that enters him and rules over him for a moment and leaves him with all the disaster that he entered into. So now this is the difference between an Ibur and a Gilgul that we mentioned in the previous year. And people don't know why they come back here into this world. They don't know if it's to fix a mitzvah, to do a certain mitzvah, or to get rid of a certain avera. Sometimes there's a person did a certain horrible sin in the previous Gilgul, and he comes back into this Gilgul, and this sin gets fixed in a certain way. Or if that sin was done with a person, then they both come back into this world, and they have again a certain relationship that this relationship is supposed to fix their sin. For example, if one person hit his friend, it could be that they both come back as a Gilgul, and then he'll come back as his son maybe, and then the father could hit the son to return what he did, mida keneged mida. And similar types of things. If there's a certain situation where certain money was passed from one party to another, wrong or seems strange, it could be that in a previous Gilgul that money was stolen from the first person, and therefore Hashem is now returning the money in order that there should be justice throughout all the Gilgul and Neshamas. And there are some Neshamas that come here into this world, that, as I said, in order to fix the generation, and these are special Neshamas, that from their youth they are revealed as, they come out as completely clean and never do sin. And the whole reason why they come into this world is to purify the world, to bring the world to a new phase, to a higher spiritual level. And these neshamas are very special, that come every single generation, very few of them, in order to fix the generation. And these are usually sparks of Moshe Rabbeinu, as the Zohar says that the neshama of Moshe Rabbeinu spreads out and comes into each generation. And the Zohar says that we don't know the way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like all the different ways that HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes these Gilgulim, and how there's a balance here. Now, the concept of Tikla, the Saboteur Mishpatim teaches us, is a very important concept. The Saba says in the Rakia that in the place where the neshamas are in heaven, they're in a place called Guf, and there are clusters of neshamas up there in Shamayim, in Guf. And there are clusters. A person says that the neshama should be tzura b'tzura chaim, means attached to these clusters. These clusters their job is to come here into this world. And until these neshamas all come out into this world, the Mashiach won't come. So therefore, specifically through doing the mitzvah of pure virivia, a person hastens the coming of Mashiach. And it's another very important reason for the mitzvah of pure virivia. Because once the neshamas and the guf are finished, and they all come back down to the world, then Mashiach will already come. And the Zohar Kadosh says that there in that place that's called guf and neshamas, there's a thing called tikla. You could imagine in Shemaim there's a balance, there's a scale, and there's neshamas in the scale. And this scale is called in a borrowed way Eitz Adas Tovara, meaning there's some neshamas on one side which are good and holy, and they're supposed to come into this world in order to fix and be mekadesh and to raise up the people in the world. And on the other side, there are low neshamas that did all sorts of sins in previous generations, previous Gilgulim, and their idea is to come here into this world and to pass over all sorts of difficulties and all sorts of problems, and all the problems that people have. It's all part of a tikkun of sins for things that they did in previous generations, previous Gilgulim. This is what it explains that a child, a very small child, right after he's born, or even in the mother's womb, he dies all of a sudden. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the king of the world, he always does justice, why would he judge that child? Is it because his parents, or what's the reason? But even if the child gets punished because of the parents, because of the improper action of the parents at the time when they brought the child into the world, which is a very important aspect when the child is conceived, the importance of having kedusha is so important at that time. That draws the holiness of a neshama into the child. But it can't. A neshama is not going to get punished if that neshama itself also didn't sin. It's not going to get punished just because of its parents. Meaning it's going to come. Bad parents are going to have a child, or parents that need this tikkun are going to have a child that's going to die, and the punishment is also applicable for the child. So it could be that a child who dies at a very young age. It could be in his previous Gilgul he was a very big tzaddik, but he was missing one little drop that he needed, and the fact that he died young, these isurim are a kapara for him. And this altogether, the neshama gets its tikkun and doesn't have to come back into this world. Now, what happens with this scale here in Shemaim? In Shemaim there's a scale, and there's difficult neshamas on one side, and on the other side there's holy neshamas. Now this balance, this scale, is very, very sensitive. And the way that people act, the way people conduct themselves in the present time, affects this scale. And there could be a situation where people do evil, and it'll cause an imbalance of this scale. And what would happen is that holy neshamas that are on the right hand side, which is the side of kedusha, will roll over to the other side, into the side of the evil side. And these neshamas are called neshamas that are ashukot. These are neshamas that are, so to speak, wrong, that have no consolation. They didn't do anything wrong. They could be very holy neshamas that, because of the sins of the generation, they have to come back into this world in order to, in all not such good bodies, in not such a good situation. And this is what they have to suffer, and they have no consolation because they didn't do anything wrong. They're supposed to have good things happen to them, but because of the sins of the generation, they rolled over on this scale onto the other side and came out on the opposite side. And the interesting thing is that the Zohar says, Es shalat ha'adam ba'adam l'rado. Es shalat ha'adam ba'adam, the Zohar says the evil side, meaning if the evil side sometimes tries to hurt the good neshamas, and it's about to, a good neshama is about to come into a very bad house, into a house that is against kedusha, is epikuros. So sometimes we see this person is choser b'tshuva. He has a good neshama, he's just born into a bad place, and he wakes up everyone around him. How could it be, people ask? It must be that it's a neshama that was on the good side, and it was rolled over into the bad side because of the sins of the generation. And it was the evil side that tried to rule over the good side, tried to take the neshama of the good neshama. And when it wakes up, when this good neshama comes out, the deeper it was in evil, in the klipas, when it's choser b'tshuva, the greater light comes out of it. Why is this? Because when the evil rules over the good, and the good is now inside the evil, he has the power to turn everything around him into kedusha. This is something amazing. David HaMelech came out of Moab. He was able to fight against Moab and to destroy Moab. Why? Where did he get this power from? From this idea that this holy neshama was supposed to be, came out through Lot and through Moab, and through Eglon of Moab, and through Ruth Moavia, and she ended up getting married to Boaz and brought into the world Oved, and Oved brought Ishai, and Ishai brought David HaMelech, and this whole process was in order to purify that neshama. And this is this tikla, which is this scale that the Zohar Kodesh speaks about. And people don't understand how this tikla stands and how people are judged every single day and every single time. Because according to the change of the times, that's how the dinim change. And Bez Hashem, we're going to elaborate on this topic. This is our first lesson in the secret of Gilgul, and in the previous and continuing lessons, we're going to explain how it's Kaparas Avanos, it's Tikkun for Averos. We're going to also speak about David HaMelech, how he himself, when he was Nifter, he stayed for 7 years outside until he was able to go into Gan Eden. After we finish this story, which speaks about Gilgulim, then we're going to start a new topic, which is going to be Kafakela. But this, Bez Hashem, we're going to have to wait till the next shir. You should have a good night.